We're going to talk about Iran, folks. This is kind of the last topic we're going to cover in this show. There's the regime. There is a regime change coming. And so for those of you that don't know the history of it, prior to 1979, Iran, was a very westernized, modern country that was not an Islamist-based Islamic republic. They had a monarchy under the Shah, there was a youth movement in 1979. I know that sounds weird, but they were hardline Muslim youth movement that overthrew the government, threw the Shah out of the country. He died shortly thereafter in Egypt. And they installed the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, quote unquote, religious leader, with a communist, although they claim democratically elected government. What's happening now, 45 years later, is that the script is being flipped. There is the Iranian people are tired of Sharia law. They are most of them, I think the last number I saw was 78%, do not want an Islamic republic of any kind as their government. They don't want a religious-based government of any kind. They're actually, completely fine with going back, having the prince come back and reestablish the monarchy. But there are protests going on in Iran right now. For those of you that haven't seen it on the news, I have someone I consider a friend. I worked with her when I worked on season 3 of Reacher on Amazon. She was in charge of really all the sets and set designs. And she reached out to me a week ago, maybe a little longer, asking some questions, some military questions about things going on both in Venezuela and Iran. And she is Iranian. Her family, she still has family living in Iran underneath and participating in all of this. So her and I have been back and forth, and it's been a great perspective for me to hear and see the things that she's saying or that she's getting from her family. I will tell you just off the top, the one that caught me most off guard was when they tell you how many fatalities there have been. She said quadruple it.
Whoa.
And this was at a time when they said it was 45 to 50. She said it's easily 200. So there's that going on that we're not seeing. Iran shut off all of the internet access specifically to block out the West. They do not want news cameras. They do not want information coming out. I know Musk tried to put some Starlink in there, but I would tell you that those folks that either received it or are putting it in place are putting their lives at risk. Because if the Iranian government finds out about it, it's not going to be, hey, we're going to confiscate that. They're going to confiscate people's lives for that stuff. But really, folks, what we all need to know and understand is that Iran, when this regime change happens, and I think very reluctantly, the U.S. should be involved with this. I think the intelligence community, CIA, and some others should be, if they're not already actively involved with this. But we are going to see a significant turn in the Middle East. When this goes to a non-theocratic, a non-religious based, democratic, even if it's a monarchy, when you see Islam leave Iran, you're going to see a drastic change across the Middle East.
Right. So I would imagine it would start a whole chain reaction, right? I mean, if they can do, that mentality of if they can do it, we can do it.
Well, so what's been going on, truthfully, since the Shah was deposed and since there's been this massive Islamic movement, is what we're seeing in Europe, right? We're starting to see, this radicalization of all of the migrant Muslims that have moved out of the Middle East and moved into Europe. UAE just the other day said we are no longer paying for residents of UAE to go be educated in the UK because we are afraid they are going to be radicalized in the UK and then come back to the UAE as radical Muslims. And so the Middle East is turning, right? There's I think it's one of the princes of Saudi Arabia has gone to Christianity, right? So you're starting to see these things, whereas the last 50 years, you've seen a rapid decline in Christian population in the Middle East. I know Iraq had a Christian population. It's all but gone. Egypt had it, all but gone, right? But you're seeing a rapid rise in Christianity in Iran right now with this regime change. So I think you're going to see some instability, but I think you are going to see a non-theocratic first nation in the Middle East in a long, long time. And I think it's going to be a great change for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Can somebody get the memo to the liberal white females, please? Yeah. find
Somebody
me some,
needs to let them. Yeah.
find me some, some support Iranian citizen flags in suburban front yards. If you find those, please take a picture.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to find any. You're not going to find any of those. Why would you? They,
Nope.
These are the people who marched, a couple months ago for no kings, and they're supporting a literal dictator, Venezuela, Maduro, of course.
And Iran, the Shah's
and Iran, of course. Yeah.
Ayatollah. It's the same thing.
Same thing. So wave your little flags of the day of the week, and without any actual knowledge, right?
Those are people that need help. They need funding. They need military intervention. And President Trump has said it. If they are killing protesters and there's evidence of it, the U.S. is going to get involved. And good.
Yes.
I do know that one of the key leaders of the IRGC has already been killed by Iranian civilians, right?
Wow.
Part of their missile, I think it was their missile defense or missile application commander. He got killed at his house. So they are starting to take things into their own hands. But I think they deserve our support probably more so than most.
Absolutely. What an amazing time in history to witness, right? I mean, we're actually going to see that happen is pretty wild. And there's a beautiful video I saved and shared of what Iran looked like back in the 70s. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful and free, and people were just living.
Afghanistan was the same way.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look, right? And again, I spent a lot of time over there. Kabul was a modern city, had a modern subway, had a zoo, had all, women in mini skirts. They were going to university. Like, it was all of those things. And then, turmoil happens. In Iran, in the case of Iran, it was the Shah being deposed and the Ayatollah being installed. And then Afghanistan, the Russians came in and they, tore the place apart. So I think the most interesting thing is it is literally the grandkids of the youth movement that overthrew the Shah. Those people's grandchildren are the people, you're talking 2 generations.
Yeah.
Their grandchildren are the ones that are flipping this thing over and turning it back to the way that it was.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I think everyone's worldview would be so much better if we actually understood and knew that history of those areas, right? Like, if we actually knew and had those comparisons, but the powers that be don't want our youth knowing these things, obviously.